chart is on the 1 and 2s right there. Well, I'll just introduce myself. My name is Tina Clayton, and I'm one of the scholarships associates as part of the scholarships team at the Greater Houston Community Foundation. And we, amongst the many things that we do, we administer scholarships on behalf of donors that want to give back to the community and in education. So it's a really small group, so I'll just probably be informal and maybe not bore you with reading all the slides, but I've got extra handouts that I gave Ms. Artie, but she wanted me to come today to be able to speak to whoever was available today. And one thing that she stressed was that she knew that the students would be ranging in ages anywhere from like 8 to graduating high school seniors, but for her, she was like, it's important, you need to know now. So that's how I came to be today, when we thought that the majority of the people would be here today. The community, let me read from my notes just for a minute to give you the boring stuff, honestly. But a community foundation, the Greater Houston Community Foundation is actually relatively young compared to other ones. Community foundations were created by a banker in 1914 at the Cleveland Trust Company, who was inspired to create a community chest that would help the generous residents in that area to be able to realize their philanthropic efforts and give back to the community. So the Greater Houston Community Foundation was originally incorporated, I believe, in 1972 or 3. And since 1995, when it was formally a nonprofit, since then we've been giving away grants. And the way the community foundations work is that it's a combination of individuals that might open something like what's called a donor advised fund. So you go and you put your money with the community foundation and of course receive the tax benefit, but then you're able to grant out to different organizations. So there's a lot of, my colleagues that do all that one-on-one with the donors, but what we do in the scholarships team is administer over 60 different individual scholarships. And when I say individual, I mean literally that. Some of the organizations and community foundations have like a single application, and then it filters it down to the other ones that you might be interested in. We have 60 different applications. And they could be from donors who are corporate or businesses, so they're often into their employees or dependents of their employees. We've got a lot of country clubs that do the same thing. And then we've got individual families that might be smaller scholarships all the way up to other private foundations that give away scholarships.
Oh, imagine the camera.
So, okay, how about for the rest of you, just pass out the other ones.
I actually work for Miami Foundation.
Miami Community?
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
I just started though.
Awesome. Okay, we'll talk.
15 days in.
So if I start, I'll just go through the presentation. The first few slides. The first few slides were just about some stats about us. Since 1995, we have distributed over $2.2 billion in grants since our founding. And then last year alone in 2024, there were over 250 million grants that were given. So let me skip past that, sorry. And get to just the scholarship part of it. So, and I feel like because it's just smaller and intimate, instead of going through all of this part of it, but I'll just kind of flow and give you kind of an overview of the process, and then we'll get to the nitty-gritty, which is what I'm supposed to be talking about, which is about the actual scholarship search. But what our team does is we kind of have cycles throughout the year. So in the beginning of each year, in January and February is when all of our scholarships open, and then they close in February and May, and they're staggered. And then April is when we're reviewing all of them, selecting winners based on whatever the criteria is for that particular one. And then by May and maybe even early June is when we let all the students know whether or not they were selected. And we always let somebody know, even if they weren't selected, because you know how it is when you apply for something and then you don't hear back. Just like a job, it's really frustrating. So we intentionally make sure that we let people know. And then during the summer is when all of the students are registering for school, whether they're freshmen, returning, sophomore, juniors, and seniors. Some scholarships are open to grad students. And that is when they're registering and taking care of stuff, and then going back into the same system that we used to apply, that they used to apply for scholarships, to be able to let us know whatever their enrollment information is. And so we're in the crunch right now. Our team is of preparing all of those checks for all of the people that were selected. And it's always for the upcoming academic year, right? So the scholarships that were open in January and February are for 25-26. So unfortunately, we're getting so many calls of people like either, oh, I didn't get this aid, or what do you have available, and we have to show them like, they're closed for this upcoming academic year. You gotta wait and apply next January for 26-27. So that'll be one of the tips that I talk about, which is that prepare and look ahead because of how the academic cycle is. You know, for those of you that are students, you already know that there's always something coming down the road. Scholarships is just another one of those things. But this particular graphic is just explaining that, not counting our summer scholarships, which just closed in June, we awarded 900 scholarships totaling $5.4 million over all of those almost 60 scholarships that we administer. So this is not much of an icebreaker because it's a small group, but just out of curiosity, do you all know, and help me know, are you all, what grades or levels are you in? Are you already in school, college, or are you like high school?
I'm going to 12th grade.
12th grade? Okay.
I'm going to college this year.
Cool, cool. Do you know like where you're interested in going? Staying in Houston, Texas, outside of Texas?
Yeah, I'm going to Dallas for University of North Texas.
Awesome sauce.
Staying in Houston.
Cool. Cool. That's what my sister graduated. So the next few slides are, the reason for these questions are just like when you're conducting your scholarship search, it's really helpful to know what you're beginning to think about. You don't have to know what your major is 100%, but just if nothing else where you think you might want to go. Because as you begin to look at these schools, not only for your application process, that will help you also be able to determine, does that school have the opportunity for scholarships to be available? And then what are you interested in? Because there may be specific ones, just like certainly there's got to be scholarships that are open to students that are in the field of music and other art careers. Do you know anybody that has received a scholarship? That is always a great resource, whether it's a family member, church, some clubs that you or your family members may be involved in. They can not only speak to maybe a scholarship that they received, but maybe be able to give you some other guidance. It's kind of similar to job search, like the more you know and the more people, sometimes that's the route to get to something versus just going in and diving into the internet, the big wide web to figure out what something is. Okay, so these are a couple of like big websites, search sites, College Board, FastWeb, the Department of Labor. One thing that we always try to stress for students whenever we're giving these presentations is if you are trying to apply for a scholarship and this website is trying to charge you, be mindful of that because all this information should be free and open and accessible. You want to definitely avoid scams. I'm sure you all are much even more up to date and on top of that than somebody who's a little bit older like me, but again, when you're applying for a scholarship, just be mindful of what you're looking for and what links you're clicking on because you should not have to pay to do the scholarship. Now, I'm sure that there's a field where people may do it privately, like to help you, or people that maybe were former admissions counselors, etc., that may be their business to help, just like tutoring. But in general, be mindful of websites that may charge you for that. Okay, and then I kind of touched on this, but the different types of scholarships that you might want to consider and places to look besides the big websites are, does your parent work for an organization where they offer scholarship through there, whether either to their employees or to dependents of them? Your church or your place of worship. Again, if you are looking at a particular major, music, I'm assuming in your instance, then when you are applying for your college, look and see if there's a particular scholarship that's, tailored towards that. Are you a first-generation college student, which means that neither of your parents pursued a degree? So many more scholarships are open to that and focus on that, which is great. And then also, are you in a particular organization? Whether it's National Honor Society, Debate Club, Beta Club, whatever the things are, there may be scholarships that those individual groups have for students. And then these are just a couple of scholarship opportunities that you may want to think about. There's national organizations like the Lions Club and the Rotary Club that some of your family members, older members in your family may have information about. And then here in Houston, in addition to the Greater Houston Community Foundation, there's the Gates Scholarship, Dell Scholars, and then Dell Organization in Austin. The Houston Livestock Show and Rodeo is really focused on education and has a lot of scholarship opportunities. They actually are having an event later this week. All scholarship providers are usually part of what's called the National Scholarship Providers Association. We go to conferences and learn best practices about what to do. And this is not only providers like us, but it could be schools, individual foundations, etc. And so that particular organization, regionally, we try to get together like us, the Livestock Show and Rodeo, the Terry Foundation, other people in Houston and in Texas. We're going to gather actually on Thursday just to talk about best practices amongst ourselves before we go to the conference later this year. And then a couple of other ones I have listed that are popular scholarships that you could check out. And then again, all this information is pretty common sense. You all are already headed to school or preparing for, so I feel like you're already in the pipeline for this. But if you haven't already asked, always check with your counselor. I know that they're overwhelmed, but I'm sure they would rather you come and talk to them and ask them than not ask. Your college admissions counselor, and of course your financial aid advisor. Okay, so how to prepare for your scholarship applications. You're already surely doing this, whether you're preparing as a rising senior or graduating. You know, you're already involved in music, which clearly you're passionate about, but whatever piques your interest, as you know, as you're applying for college, the more that's there, the more that it catches your eye. Unfortunately, college is competitive, and I say unfortunately in the sense that we should all have access and the opportunity to be able to go to college, honestly, wherever we want, regardless of price, but there are different things that limit that. And so you are unfortunately competing with other students, and so the more that you can fill out your application and your scholarship applications to be able to show what represents you and what you're interested in, the better it will be when people are determining whether or not you'll be able to be accepted into the college. And then the last bullet point, which will come up later on, about start a list or resume of your activities. To save you kind of time, if you are already, again, if you're like a rising senior or you haven't quite graduated yet, just make a list and dump everything that you're involved in. It may seem inconsequential, but when it comes time for these applications and you have the ability to be able to apply, scholarship providers would rather know more than less. One of the things that we added into our resume portion, which is just, it's not a typical just like upload your CV, your resume, but rather filling out the sections, almost like a job application. But you're going to put your employment, your volunteerism, your student activities, your outside of school activities. But we also added family responsibilities because every student is different, and especially in this day and age, there's so many students who may be taking care of younger siblings. They may have older family members that are staying with them and have to take their grandparents to the doctor. They may have jobs that their money is contributing to the family household. And so those students may not have the opportunity to be in after-school programs. And so when you look at their resume with finger quotes, it may look like they don't compare or stack up to other students. But that doesn't mean that they aren't contributing and what they're doing isn't just as important. And that it's not a leadership role because you're taking care of your baby siblings, you know? So we have added that to ours, and when you're filling out your application, we want people to put that. Now this is above just like your chores that you're having to do, but something that will indicate how important it is that you're working on stuff. Okay. Key, of course, is to apply for the free application for student aid. So many changes and things have been going on with FAFSA over the past couple of years. They're trying to continue to update it, and they had some glitches last year, but this is still a requirement for, sometimes I think maybe in Texas it's even required that you complete it in order to graduate from high school, but also that's going to be where they'll find out, you know, how much money hopefully your school will be able to provide. Okay, this is also a little bit obvious, but you know, scholarships are competitive, but I will say that, and you've all probably heard this information, there are so many scholarships that go unused and unclaimed each year. Part of it is the challenge is that there's so many of them and people don't know where to look, right? So that is no fault of anyone other than there's just so much stuff out there. But I will say that, again, if you go ahead and apply for as many scholarships as you can, you know, it can be very disappointing if you're not selected, but don't take it necessarily to heart because they are very competitive. Just know that if you can provide as much information as possible and fill it out as robustly as possible so that people get a chance to know you, at least you know you put your best foot forward in doing that. So again, apply for as many as possible as you can. Ask for feedback. So a lot of times when because we email all students and let them know whether or not they were selected, we do get questions after it's closed about, is there something you could share that might make it better? And while we may not give them point by point, we can at least say, oh, this scholarship reviews or focuses on community volunteerism. And so if that person didn't have any volunteerism, we can just remind them that if they're able and eligible to apply the next year, you might want to kind of beef that up for next time. Or if your GPA is a little bit lower, we know you're going to pursue it anyway for school, but you kind of need to do it because this one has a higher GPA. So we do try to provide some feedback just to yeah.
I want to add something
Please
to the, but don't take it personally if you don't receive a scholarship. I applied for the Gates Millennium Scholarship. We made it all the way to round 3, and I didn't receive a scholarship. And my senior year, I was really, really sad about that. And so I submitted that to my university that I was a 3rd finalist, and my university ended up giving me 5 scholarships. Just off the fact that I was a Gates Millennium finalist. I didn't receive the scholarship, but I was a finalist. And just because I was a finalist, I received the Thurgood Marshall Scholarship, which in hindsight for me was better than the Gates Scholarship because it provided more resources, provided more training, more networking opportunities. And as a cohort, like I still have my cohort now, been out of school quite some time. And my cohort was still really, really, really close. So don't take it personally. If you don't receive a scholarship, it's just not for you, but go and get the next one. Because you only, I have this slogan where I say I eat what I kill. I only eat what I kill. You're only going to get a scholarship you apply for it, and you put in the energy for it, and you know that you can get it. I think I was talking to somebody outside earlier because I write grants currently today. I never write a grant on grace or hope. When I write a grant, I know for a fact I'm going to get this grant because I've met all the requirements, I've exceeded the minimum requirements, and I've placed myself and positioned myself in a way where I know I'm going to get it. So always apply to as many scholarships as you can, but don't be applying to scholarships that you don't meet the requirements for. You're going to be upset every time.
Yes.
You're going to be upset every time. So that's my little tip.
Yes, no, I appreciate that. Let me switch your head because that's probably in there. So to piggyback off of that, because it's so challenging and frustrating when we are reviewing the applications to see that somebody did not meet the eligibility requirements. So by that we just mean that, and I'll show you in a second, our website. But when you're looking at the description, if the GPA is a 2.5 and you have a 2.3, then you are not eligible for that scholarship to apply. So don't waste your time. It's not even about wasting ours. We're gonna have to look at them. But why would you waste your time filling that out if you know that you're not eligible? And when we say, like for us, ours are GPA are unweighted because we want it to be fair and equitable, especially for the ones where like high school seniors are competing with college students. If we say that we're doing it unweighted and that it should be rounded to the nearest 2 decimal points, then a 2.24 is a 2.24, not a 2.3, because we're rounded to the decimal points. So check your eligibility requirements first. Now, one thing we hear and we also understand, because we hear from all different sides, sometimes our donors, especially those that have lower application numbers, are like, why wouldn't they apply? It's free money, X, Y, and Z. Well, if your scholarship is awarding $500, some money is better than no money, but if it's choosing between that and one that offers $15,000 and the student is doing that plus applying to school and doing activities and a million other things, they may not spend the time because it may not be worth that investment to fill that out, especially those that are long and offer a small amount of money. Right? And so we continually work with our donors to try to do best practices to encourage things like, for example, we've tried to, some of them still have them, but recommendation letters. While they are great and wonderful, they may not have much effect either way. You know, how is that really getting feedback about the student, right? And so we try to talk to we meet with them every year and go over the criteria and try to best practices. And so like, for example, somebody comes to us brand new, we steer them towards the ones that we've talked about and that really have got them into the best shape possible. The resume section, again, we try to get them to combine all of those categories. Now, some companies, their focus or their mission is, for example, volunteerism or community service. So they probably will have a higher amount of points in their rubric that are for that, because that's what's important to them. Others, employment is important. Some are more academic based, some are financial. Some employers have salary bands where they're looking at how much money the person earns. Some of them use the FAFSA data. So they really are all different. But whatever the criteria is, ensure that you meet that so that you won't waste your time completing it and that you have a better chance of being reviewed. Because what we do is our team does all of the eligibility first, the more sensitive data like financial, academics, and then we have a volunteer review committee made up of hundreds of educators, former counselors, other colleagues at the foundation. They all volunteer their time to review the second part, which is the essays, the recommendation letter, the resume. And so we take all that information, average all the scores, score and rank based on what it is. But the more that you fill it out and are honest and answer the questions the way that they need to be, the better that you have a shot of being selected. So I feel like two gentlemen that I'm talking to are probably already on it, and you probably got all the adults telling you all these things. But track your scholarships and your deadlines. If you are not already, the application to college and scholarship process is the beginning of you being the adult that everybody keeps saying that you're going to be when you hit 18 and above, right? Like, you got your own email, you're going to apply for this, you're going to stay on top of it. Your parents may be involved, or your other family members, to get after you and remind you, but ultimately this is one of the first levels of it is your responsibility to look after whatever it is that you're taking care of. So track your scholarship deadlines, because those are the other emails we get literally the next day. Oh, I didn't get the scholarship recommendation form, can I still apply? And we are very firm in our deadlines, because not only are we coordinating with that volunteer review committee, we've got timelines. If we keep extending it, then that throws everything off. But also that you've had a month or 2 months to be able to apply. And so one day, it will make a difference for you, but also you've had that time period. This third bullet is more to do with our particular one, but we recommend when students are creating a GHCF Scholar account on our website that they use their own personal email rather than their parents', or if you're a graduating high school senior, don't use your high school one because you don't want to lose access to it after you graduated. If you have to provide a transcript or a recommendation letter, make sure you ask your counselors or your family member or whoever is in the pool of references, ask them sooner than later so that you aren't having to rush them and they won't hold you up. Definitely have someone proofread your essay. In the advent of AI, we recently created like an AI honor statement. So it's not that students can't and applicants can't use AI for some reason. You may want to brainstorm, but at the end of the day, it should still be your words, or you may want to use it for spell check. So make sure you proofread your essay. Make sure you have somebody else read it. But more importantly, and before that I should have backed up, is make sure that you answer the question that's answered in the essay. Rather than saying what you think that somebody would want to, or rather than recycling your college admission essay, make sure that you address the specific question of whatever it is, because that's what our scholarship review committee is always looking for. And we are mindful of, like, English may not be a person's first language, grammar, we try not to be super sticklers about that, but rather, did you answer it and how did you answer it, and know that you were really kind of paying attention to that part. And ask for help, right? I know that's hard for all of us, it doesn't matter what age you are, but if you need some help with something, please ask somebody. And then make sure you submit your application before the deadline. Ours are usually due on a certain date at 11:59 p.m. Central Time, where the standard or daylight, and that means that it closes at 11:59. So if you are typing at 11:59, it's going to lock you out. That's the deadline, and even for me, like, I'm thinking the first session that I was there, or the first cycle that I was there, I was like, oh, okay. And also, because ours is 11:59, which we're not trying to trick anybody, people have midnight stuck in their head. And so not only is it not midnight, it really isn't even 11:59. 11:58 is the last time that you have to do it. And also be mindful, because we administer scholarships for organizations that are all over the country, like many of our donors are headquartered here in Houston, but you don't have to live in Houston or just in Texas to apply for some of the scholarships we administer. Make sure that you're checking the time zone if you're using a website, and make sure that you change it to Central, for example, if you're applying for something that might be managed by somebody that's on the East Coast. If it asks you to change your time, then it will track it for you, but that will help you keep up with your scholarship deadline as well. Okay, so for us, but probably most applications, these are some of the pieces that you're probably going to have to provide some level of financial information. It could be just your FAFSA. It used to be the SAI, but now it's something else. Another number that the FAFSA will spit out once you plug in all of that. It may just be if you're applying, for example, for your parents, a scholarship that's offered through your parents' company. Is the new one? It used to be SAR.
It used to be EFC.
Yes. Okay,
No,
SAI, Student Aid Index. Yeah, thank you. It's all blurred together. You probably will have to answer one or maybe multiple essays. You may have to have recommendation forms. Ours are all online. So we will not accept them if a teacher emails them in, but we obviously give students plenty of time to be able to submit this. There's a resume portion where, again, that's just broken up into your employment, your student activities, etc. And then a couple of our scholarships actually have an interview process. Not as in-depth as some of the other scholarship providers that we are aware of, and most of them are usually conducted online, be virtual. Okay, yes.
Can I add
Yeah.
you go back to the last time?
Yes.
This
This one. Oh, thank you. College student, you're going to college student, because this doesn't just stop at high school. You need to apply to scholarships every year that you're in college.
Yes.
Every year.
Yes.
No matter how much money you got. You could be getting a $10,000 refund check, still apply for scholarships, because there's someone who's out there that's not applying to them.
Yes.
And the money's just sitting. And it's just going to sit and sit and sit and sit and sit till you get it. But what I wanted to say is, on having someone proofread your essay, we are in a AI time frame.
Yes.
And I'm telling you from a professor speaking. Please do not take the topic and put it in ChatGPT
Absolutely.
and copy and paste it.
Yes.
We're going to know that.
Yes.
Also, don't just copy and paste from ChatGPT, especially if you're not paying for it. It will be grammatically incorrect. I know this. I've literally 2 semesters in a row, I've had to take students to the Office of Academic Dishonesty because of this, because of ChatGPT. But always have someone proofread it and look over it. And when it comes to the essays, a lot of scholarships are going to have the same question somewhere. Sometimes you just have to change the essay to fit the question that they're asking. You don't have to write a whole new essay. Some they're going to ask, like, what are your plans as a college? How do you plan to give back to the community? What impact do you have in your community? It's going to be surrounded around that. So I usually have students like write an essay that surrounds all these topics. And so when you read the topic that the scholarship says, you read your essay, okay, it aligns. What do I need to add to make this more strong so that I can receive this scholarship? If they're asking for your finances, this is not a place to be like, oh, I'm big pocketed. No, this is the place to be poor.
Absolutely.
Very poor, very low income. I have to tell a lot of students this, because on the FAFSA they ask you like, hey, what scholarships do you have? How much money in your bank account? Zero. We have no money. And that's just being honest. And you speaking for someone who has never had to take out a student loan. That's like that's one of my greatest accomplishments. I've never taken out a student loan because I understood that I came from a low income household. My mom ain't got it, my sister ain't got it, my granddad don't have it, my uncles don't have it. I have to go and get it for myself. So even all the way up into my doctoral program, I was applying for scholarships. I just applied for a scholarship last year, $1,000. I didn't care. Did nobody want to get it? I got it. I took it home. Like, it went to my pocket because I'm on a full ride. So if you program yourself to always apply for scholarships, and especially if you're going to college and you're not going to work, which I don't recommend students working, because once you work comes with, you want responsibilities now. Now your responsibilities are more important than school. So always apply to scholarships, keep applying for them, never stop, never stop. Even once you get out of undergrad, go into a master's program, you go into medical school, always, always, always apply for scholarships. That's for everybody in here too. Everybody can apply for scholarships. There's scholarships for everybody, adult learners, re-entry programs. There are so many scholarships. You just have to get out here and do the research and get them.
Thank you. And you just said something and now I forgot. Okay, so let me skip over. These are my peeps who are not here with me. Marie in the blue is my fellow Senior Scholarships Associate, and in the red is our manager, Courtney Grimampre. We are a mighty team of three that, like I said, administers all of those scholarships. It's just the three of us. And so when one thing that makes our management of the scholarships a little different than if you're going to a big Gates or a Dell, etc., is that when you email or call us, at least during business hours, you're going to get one of us and we're going to answer your question. And if your parent calls, assuming that we can deduce that that's your parent, we're not just going to talk about your information with anybody, we help them because we're getting calls from employees at companies that are employment-based that are calling and asking questions on behalf of their students. And then sometimes we're getting calls from students. But we are going to answer your phone call or respond to your email all throughout the process and afterwards. Now all the questions have shifted from application stuff to when's my check coming, And so we're just like, did you log in and give us the information that you needed? Nope. Okay, as soon as you do, we'll send the check, right? And the process, I feel like I skipped a slide. Maybe I just have it in my notes. But the process for the disbursement, every organization and scholarship provider is different, but for us as a community foundation, we can only send scholarship checks to accredited colleges, universities, and academic institutions. And generally, they only cover tuition fees and other expenses like books. So they cannot cover room and board or your meal plan, etc. And that's tied to us wanting to ensure that you don't get taxed on any of that. But as long as it's an accredited institution and as long as it falls within whatever the requirements are for that scholarship, then we should be able to mail a check to that. And so we just ask for some basic information and we're sending the check directly to the school. We can't send them to the students, but we can send them to the school. And so it's a big, huge, process that we're kind of doing. So we're doing that right now. We just had the scholarships that closed at the end of June, so we're doing a little bit of the review process. There were 4 that were open. And then we'll get into the fall months. Into September, we'll probably still be cutting a few checks because some people on the East Coast may not register for school or they may not start school until September, October. So we try to do it now so that the money can get there before school starts so you don't have to take out a loan in the meantime or an emergency loan. But we're going to continue to pay that. And then for us, the fall is when we're meeting with all of our donors to review the cycle of what just happened and then prepare for the next year. And then by the time we get to Christmas time, we are updating all of the applications and getting ready to launch for January, February, and then boop, it starts all over. So we're kind of in that time period where we don't know what year it is because it's 2025 and we're doing 25, 26 scholarships, but we're already thinking about 26, 27, and there's some people that didn't claim it from 24, 25, so we're all over the place. But that was like a super duper not organized brain dump. Do you two have any questions? Probably not because you're pooped and ready for lunch. You've got my contact information though, so let me know if you need anything else.
Do you have anything open or do you have anything open or like any recommendations?
What grade you in?
I'm
Hey,
about to be a junior.
Use microphone.
You about to be a junior in high school?
Like hold the button.
Okay, and also, I would say you can start with some of the bigger ones. Let me go back. Some of these bigger ones, but I would say start with your school first. You're a senior in college. Go to your school's website. Just if you don't know how to get to wherever it is and already know where it is, then go in the search bar and type scholarships, and then get to the page that are the scholarships that your school offers. and see about where those applications are open. So start there first, and then see if there's an external scholarships, outside scholarships, which is what we would be, because some schools are very organized, and on top of it, it will list the ones that are other people that provide the money. So if your school's on top of it, hopefully they've got like both of those on there. And then start breaking down into the other ones. If you are an alumni of from your high school, see if they have one. See if your college, church, synagogue, etc. has one. Does your family, do you have relatives that work for an organization and they have, dependent scholarships? So just check all those places before you probably have to hit these big ones, because then it'll just,
It's a guy.
it's a dive. But thank you for the question.
Yeah, just to piggyback off him, that's my mistake too. I'm just going to the outside ones instead of going to the school ones, so.
Yes, always start with your school first, because not only do they have ones that they offer, which, they're going to be more likely to give to them, but also then they may have a list of ones that are coming from outside places. Check with your high school, even if you're a senior and you just graduated, but you still have a relationship, go back to your counselor. Now, they may be a little less responsive because he or she is going to be focused on the graduating seniors, but check with all of those different routes. Talk to the people that you know and ask them, did they get one or do they know one? Just every single person that you like and can stand, ask them and see what they say. Yes, ma'am.
Just one other thing.
Give her.
The Conrad Johnson Foundation also, Conrad Johnson Foundation is not on? I don't know. Also offers scholarships. Now, the difference between the others that Ms. Clayton mentioned and us is the fact that we give our scholarship $1,000 to the student. It's just, and the reason for that is because, as she said, majority of the scholarship goes to the school, and goes to the school. But we attempt to give it to the student, which is generally awarded at our brunches, which will be every year when we do it is in December. And like I said, the reason is to help the student get to the college.
Yes.
All of those scholarships, they help them with books or they help them with tuition and room and board and all that. And one case in point, we had a student that was going to Vanderbilt. And as she was going, she somehow another broke her laptop. And she needed the money for the laptop. If she had not gotten our scholarship to assist her, then she would have been without that laptop. So we try to help the student. Of course, we have those same criteria that Ms. Clayton was speaking of. And just like she said, you can pretty much tailor the same information to any particular scholarship application, just as long as you're doing it in compliance to that particular organization. So we give out 5 $1,000 scholarships every year. That's the whole purpose of our golf tournament that we were having, that we go reinstate. So, just look, like she said, look to the places that you already have. It's only $1,000, but $1,000 can get you really far. So look to those things and apply. One year we had the whole 5,000 left because our students honestly didn't feel like filling it out. They were so spoiled, let me put it that way. They were so spoiled that they thought that they were going to just wait and not meet the deadline. And then when they got time, they were going to fill out the application. And one student just loved her to death. But she didn't meet the deadline. And she said, well, I gave it to Mr. Robinson. Mr. Robinson pulled out his little phone and said, Chelsea emailed me to give her a letter of recommendation at 7:49 p.m. on 7/23/85, and it was due 7/23/85. Okay, So she missed that money. So like I said, you know, be serious about regards to who's giving it to you, your church, school, or this organization. You mentioned Lions Club. We are in the process of forming a partnership with 2S2, District 2S2 of the Lions Club. And again, which is another source that we will have to our students as far as scholarships are concerned. So we have those resources as well. They just wanted to let you know.
Absolutely. The last thing I just wanted to share was this is our website where we, all of the applications go through. It's ghcfscholar.org. And so this is the landing page. If it were January, February, even June, there would be a section in the middle letting you know which scholarships are open and the deadlines. But right now, they're all closed for the 25-26 academic year. But if you click this full list of scholarships, it will open up to here and you can see all the different ones. So back in January, we had the Kylie application open. Then most of our bigger corporate clients that have a larger amount are the bulk that are due in February. And then everybody else is due at the end of March. And then we had a couple of stragglers and then the summer ones. And then when you click on the particular link, then you will see what the criteria is for that individual one. And then when the application is open, there would be an apply button up here that if you were logged into your account, you could click apply. But as you can see, the deadline, the open and closing is always on that page. And every time you're logged in, you're always going to know what the application is. So there's really no excuse for if anybody misses our deadlines unless you didn't set your time zone correctly and you're somewhere else, or you emailed your reference at 7 o'clock at night when it's due that night, knowing that they are not near their work computer and checking their work email. So I will say this about our site. We see all activity. So it's kind of hard to pull any fast ones over on us to say that, oh, I had technical problems, oh, such and such, when we could see the last time you logged in was like 6 weeks ago. You know, so please, for the two of you and you as well, like come over here to the main site, go to the full scholarships list. We have this summary here so you'll can see who it benefits. We don't have very many general, many of them are very specific because it's either tied to employment or it is a specific major, but we have kind of some more general ones like the 80 Osherman, which is benefits specifically first generation students. If you know people that are, for example, in the nursing field, we've got a couple of those tailored. But just get a chance, like I said, and just click in there and then click on each one and you can see the criteria. Now, we do review them with our donors each year, so we would encourage you to come back in January and February to make sure you have the most up-to-date criteria. Generally, they're not changing GPAs and things like that, but there could be some subtle differences, so we want to make sure that if you're meeting it now, that you also meet it at that time. Okay, that was the quick and fast and dirty. Any other questions?
I do got another one too. For my high school students, when y'all be, if you do have to get a recommendation letter.
Just because we're recording.
Oh, I'm sorry. If you do have to get a recommendation letter, I prefer, if you have a teacher who doesn't grade assignments on time, don't expect them to be your resume, your recommendation letter. You know what I'm saying? Like, always go to a teacher who is one, reputable, two, you can trust what they're gonna write about you.
Yes.
And three, they're gonna do it on time.
Yes.
So the teacher that's always flustered, that may be your girl, that may be your best friend, she cannot write a recommendation letter for you because she doesn't have time. And if she does write one, what is it going to say? I know once I became, in my master's program, I had someone write a recommendation letter for me, and I was like, hey, can I read it first? Because I don't know, I need to know what you're saying. Because you may not know. And your teacher may know only a small bit of you. And that's why it's good for you to have your resume, because your teacher can know your character, but they don't know what you do outside of school, outside of their classroom. So if you can attach your resume, already have that, and give it to your teacher, then they can write their recommendation letter. I've had a lot of students who miss out on scholarships simply because the teacher did not complete the recommendation letter. And it's sad, but there's nothing I can do on my end because these are the requirements. You knew when it was due, you're supposed to be in your teacher like back pockets, and you did it.
Absolutely.
And you let it pass. So that's just a tip. Like, all teachers are good teachers, but all teachers don't need to be writing your recommendation.
Okay. Thank thank you so much for allowing me to be here. I'm really looking forward to learning more since I'm in the
area.
in the family now, learn more about it. I did share that a little bit at the beginning, but my family, I grew up in San Antonio, but the Clayton side of the family is from Houston, Cashmere Gardens specifically. My sister ended up graduating from Cashmere because she moved from San Antonio here, finished her last year, stayed with my grandmother. Most of the rest of the family went to Wheatley. But definitely,
best school.
definitely, we'll talk later, Ms. Hardy. Definitely am really excited to be able to learn more, but I'm appreciative that you were able to invite us and I was able to, and like you said, everything for a reason, so the fact that I was able to be the one to come this week seems.
And that's true, and everything has a connection, because the reason Ms. Clayton is here is because the scholarships we've given in the past are from board members who contribute
To the Greater Houston
to the
Community.
great,
Right.
So it just come around, and that's how I met, who did I meet? Crystal.
Crystal.
Yeah, that's how I met her, trying to make sure we got our monies from her organization. So you already did a thing from her organization there already, so you have another opportunity there. And even you, Jeremiah, you need money. If you need money, you may not need money.
No, I do.
Thank y'all.
So, all right, thank you so much, Ms. Clayton. Well, that concludes. That concludes the first half. We need, we don't need, but we would like you guys to take advantage of lunch. And so we have another dynamic speaker after lunch 1. And then we'll go into getting prepared for the 25th. Okay? So y'all can be dismissed. And I can walk